Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am so excited for today's guest. He is one of the most discussed and debated figures in literary history. For those who may somehow not know who you are, who are you?
Hi, Calvin. It is quite a novelty to be doing this. I'm J.D. Salinger, though most readers know me as the fellow who wrote a book about a certain teenager named Holden Caulfield. I'm just a writer who prefers the company of my characters to the bright lights of the city.
It's an honor to have you out of the woods for a bit. Let's go back. When and where were you born?
I was born on New Year's Day, 1919, right in the heart of Manhattan, New York City. Quite a way to start a year, isn't it?
A New Year's baby! And what was your given name at birth?
Jerome David Salinger. My friends and family usually just called me Jerry.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
Nothing too cinematic, I'm afraid. My father, Saul, was of Lithuanian Jewish descent, and my mother, Marie, who changed her name to Miriam to better fit in with the family, just wanted a solid, respectable name for their son.
What was your hometown like growing up?
Manhattan in the 20s and 30s was a whirlwind. We lived on the Upper West Side, near Park Avenue. It was full of prep schools, theaters, and people constantly in a rush. It was sophisticated, but to a young boy, it could feel a bit like a gilded cage.
What was your family life like?
It was comfortable, middle class. My father was in the meat and cheese importing business, mostly ham, actually. My mother was very supportive. I had an older sister, Doris. We were a standard New York family, though there were always those quiet tensions about identity and expectations.
What kind of kid were you?
I was a bit of a misfit. I wasn't much of an athlete, and I certainly wasn't a stellar student. I had a sharp tongue and a bit of an attitude. My parents eventually sent me off to Valley Forge Military Academy to try and straighten me out.
Military school! Did you have any big fears back then?
Failure, mostly, and the fear of being phony, a word I'd eventually use quite a lot. I was afraid of disappearing into a life that didn't feel authentic to who I was.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
For a while, I thought I might like to be an actor. I loved the theater and even did some acting in summer camps and at Valley Forge. But eventually the pen became much more appealing than the stage.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
Aside from the drama club, I was the literary editor of the yearbook. I loved writing short stories. Even during the strict routines of military school, I'd hide under the covers with a flashlight to write.
What was your first job?
My father took me to Austria and Poland to learn the meat importing business. I had to work in a slaughterhouse in Vienna. It was a gruesome experience, and I realized very quickly that I was not cut out for the family business.
I can imagine that would push anyone toward writing. Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
It was during the war, seeing the things I saw in Europe, landing on Utah Beach on D-Day, being part of the liberation of concentration camps. It changes the way you see polite society. I realized I couldn't go back to just being a typical New Yorker.
What's a decision that changed everything for you but felt small at the time?
Enrolling in a writing class at Columbia University taught by Whit Burnett. He was the editor of Story magazine. He was the first person to really believe in my work and published my first story. That little class gave me the confidence to keep going.
What was your biggest break?
Getting my stories into the New Yorker. That was the gold standard for any writer. Once they started publishing the Glass family stories, I felt like I had finally found my audience.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
Rejection. I sent stories to magazines for years before getting a yes. And of course, writing while serving in the Army during World War II. I carried chapters of The Catcher in the Rye with me through the battlefields.
Did you ever consider quitting?
No, writing was how I processed the world. Even when I stopped publishing, I never stopped writing. To me, the act of writing was the prize, not the publishing.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
Privacy and discipline. I moved to Cornish, New Hampshire to get away from the phonies and the critics. I'd go to my little studio on the hill every single day and work for hours. You have to protect your inner world.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I might have been a teacher of Eastern philosophy. I became very interested in Zen Buddhism and Vedantic Hinduism later in life.
What was your life like before fame?
It was a struggle to be heard. I was a young man in the city trying to find my voice while the world was at war. It was loud and chaotic.
How did relationships change after success?
Success made me suspicious. I felt like people wanted to know Salinger the author rather than Jerry the person. It made me retreat. It's hard to have a normal relationship when the world thinks you're a hermit or a prophet.
Did fame bring happiness?
Not in the slightest. It was an intrusion. Happiness for me was a quiet room, a hot cup of tea, and a good sentence.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
The loss of anonymity. People would drive up to my house in New Hampshire and peek in the windows. It felt like I was being hunted,
What misconceptions did people have about you?
that I was some sort of angry, bitter recluse. I wasn't bitter. I was just protective. I had friends in town. I went to school board meetings. I just didn't want to be a celebrity.
What was your darkest moment?
The war, certainly. The trauma of those years stayed with me. I spent some time in a hospital for, quote, battle fatigue after the war ended.
What past regrets did you carry?
I suppose I regretted how my retreat affected my children at times. It's difficult for children to grow up in the shadow of someone who wants to be invisible.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
That my silence meant I had stopped working. I was working more than ever. I just decided that the public didn't need to see it.
Did fame and fortune change your life?
It gave me the freedom to disappear. That was the only thing the money was good for, buying the silence I needed to live.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My teacher, Whit Burnett, and the various spiritual teachers of the Ramakrishna Vivekananda Center in New York. They helped me find a sense of peace that literature couldn't quite provide.
What was life like in your final years?
It was very peaceful. I lived in my home in Cornish. I gardened, I studied, and I wrote every day. I lived a very simple, quiet life.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away on January 27th, 2010, at my home in Cornish, New Hampshire. I was 91 years old.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I was a huge fan of classic movies and television. I used to have a projector and would watch old 16mm films. I even liked some of the popular shows of the time, much to the surprise of people who thought I only read ancient texts.
What was your favorite food?
I was quite a health food enthusiast. I ate a lot of organic vegetables, nuts, and sprouts. I was very particular about what I put into my body.
Did you have any known rivalries?
Mostly with the publishing industry and critics. I didn't care for most contemporary writers of my time. I felt they were too concerned with being literary rather than being true.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
During the war, I actually met Ernest Hemingway in Paris. He was very kind to me and my work, which was surprising because he could be quite a prickly character. We sat in a hotel and talked about writing while the world was literally burning around us.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Stop chasing success and start chasing the truth of your work. If you do something just to be famous, you've already lost. Do it because you have to.
JD, do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before signing off?
Just that I hope people remember that books are meant to be read, not studied to death. If you find a friend in a character, that's enough. Thank you for the conversation, Calvin. It was much more pleasant than I expected.
Thank you so much. It was truly a privilege to hear your perspective. We covered your early days in Manhattan, the impact of the war on your writing, and your life of quiet discipline in New Hampshire. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.